any last words before we go into the net assets?
Um, I think we're good. If you want to go into like more of the risky things, I could talk about that, or we could wait for later.
I think I have that allocated in the net assets. We
Okay,
actually have it
cool.
as a line item. So
All
let's
right,
talk about
sounds good.
that. Let's talk about that. I'm pretty sure I do, right? Well, bam. And speculative stocks, we have 3%. So hopefully that would also be a conversation with the uh, risky stuff. Do we want to start there? So here we have, maybe let's just walk us through this from retirement all the way
Sure.
down to crypto. Um,
Okay, so the retirement, I kind of already covered that. I think that's just the my investments plus the it's my invest my yeah, that's my investment plus the match basically. So that 9% plus the 8% I'm investing. Um, just target date fund there. So that's where most of my uh, assets lie currently. I guess just under 50%. Then general investing, that would be everything else included in, as far as the non-speculative, like dollar cost averaging, stuff like that. Some of the robo advising, not including the bonds though. So this is general investing for
mhm.
stocks, I think. Um, and then yeah, that's how it's broken down here. So that's retirement stocks, then general investing, just stocks. So those are all kind of like more safer bets. How I plan to do that. Wanted to get that out of the way first. So that was my number one goal. And then the bonds is that that betterment distribution, robo advising, and a little bit of retirements. I think right now the target date fund, it's really low on bonds right now. I'm not even positive there are any currently, but I
Interesting.
would have to double check. So it's mainly just stocks, international and domestic, and then cash. Got a little bit of cash, and then crypto. Talked about that.
Yep.
And speculative stocks. Yeah, that's just the stuff that I had fun with over the year while I was bored in quarantine, like a lot of people have. So that's been the roller coaster ride.
Right, right,
So some very terrible investments and some really lucky investments. Maybe
right.
some good investments along the way, but probably just lucky. Uh,
So,
so yeah, so I think I started out the year, kind of my goal was to learn a lot. I Since I didn't know anything about investing, I kind of wanted um, to start out with a little bit of that, and just I got Robinhood and TD Ameritrade and started trading a few of the stuff, like listening from podcasts, reading on like forums and stuff,
mhm.
and looking into a little bit more of the details there, and then occasionally just hearing from a friend that this is a good investment, and
So
not looking into it at all and just putting my money into
do you have
it.
any specific stocks that stick out to you that you've been the most speculative on in a sense?
Yeah, so let's see. I bought AMC
Nice.
like after it went up a lot. So I think it's actually gone up again.
It has.
So
It
it's gone
has.
up quite a bit. And I bought GameStop when all that hype was going on for it, and it went up. I didn't buy it at the top peak, but I bought it pretty high.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's down a bit. I think that's down like 30% or something like that.
Here, I'll look it
So
up.
that's like the most speculative um, as well. And then I did some day trading type stuff as well. So I did um, Dogecoin would probably be another speculative. I didn't put a lot of money into that though. And then I did buy some. I did mess around with a little bit of options trading as well, which is
This
Probably
guy.
the, oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, so this is over the last 6 months with AMC.
Look at that.
Yeah, I mean it
That's
was
pretty good.
like
So
two
I think
dollars.
I probably bought it right around that top right there. I
They're here.
remember
This $20 a share.
yeah, probably. So I was driving to California, driving back from California at the same time this was happening.
Wow.
And I was listening to like all the talk about GameStop that it was like all on the news like 24/7, and there's nothing else to do besides listen to it. And I was like, I need to put some money into this because this is gonna make the drive way more fun. And it did, but it wasn't smart. But
Yeah.
I didn't lose too much,
I mean, again,
fortunately.
long-term holding is the the name of the game.
Yeah, yeah,
If it's only about the realized gains or losses that matter, right? So,
yeah, yeah.
um,
So I'm so for some reason I'm still holding on GameStop, but yeah.
yeah,
um,
it's really
I
only the
did
last
that.
day that just
Yeah,
crashed.
I did I did some um option. Oh, that's probably one of the dumbest things I've done is back in February last year, the stock market like started to go down a little bit, and I was
Mm,
like, well, there's all this hype around coronavirus that's there's every 2 years there's like a new like swine flu type thing that never pans out, and now this now like the travel stocks and stuff are going down a little bit. I'm like, I'll get some options here,
mm.
it's not going to be anything. and then and then March hit. And that was yeah, that was like right when I got into some started
Wh-
investing a little bit more.
So you started doing options in like January, February then?
I did a little some options in February, and I
Of what
lost like all the
stocks?
um I forget which stocks. It was like I think it was like travel, like it might have been like Delta or something like that. Um and it wasn't like a long term uh options either. I think it was like expiration date of like November, December.
Actually, oh yeah,
Um
let me go back. Yeah, boom.
yeah, so I bought Delta stocks when it crashed, but okay, can you go look? Yeah. Yeah, there we go. There it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I basically lost all that money. Um, but I don't think it was a travel stock. I forget. It was a couple.
So,
Um,
so
so
there,
yeah,
there's gonna be some delay, I think, until if you're seeing it on your screen. But yeah,
okay.
I have done some jets back when it crashed down here. I got some, and so I mean that's been good. But jets is like a ETF of like a lot of different travel, specifically airline stocks.
Yeah.
It hasn't actually gone. Yeah, I mean it's gone up. I think as much as I think would have expected it to, but I was really actually thinking it would have gone up more, like
Yeah.
back up to like 30 something at this point. But I guess
Yeah.
it's full recovery there.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
so definitely options, it's very risky. It's more or less like gambling. Unless you know really what you're doing, um,
Right.
you're probably gonna lose your money if you do
It
that.
You have to like know a lot of the terms and verbiage, and you need to understand exactly what like calls and puts are, and understand like what you're if you're in the money, out of the money, and then uh oh, there's so much to to keep in mind there,
Yeah,
and
for
if you even
sure.
want to hold it until until it has to execute, right? Because they're timed, right? So it's like, okay, so I bought this option for I don't know how many weeks or months or potentially shorter or longer terms than that. Um,
Yeah,
and it's just like, well, you don't actually have to hold it. You just hold or buying the contract for that
Yeah,
stock or that purchase or
exactly.
sell, which is crazy to
So
think about.
yeah, that was one of my worst probably. I made it up a little bit. I think January. I I've only bought options a few times, but I've looked into it a lot because I found it interesting,
Yeah.
and you saw all the hype around options and stuff like that. It's really expensive to buy a decent option too, like
Yeah.
because it's 100 times the stock price. So if if it's a decent like in the money call, then it's gonna be pretty expensive if it's not like a really cheap stock. And if it's a really cheap stock, then it's not really worth it to get a call option.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So there's definitely some interesting ways you can reduce risk by using some options trading, and there's a few cool strategies that you can use. But I haven't gotten that sophisticated with it.
Like by buying the actual stocks and then like also buying the contracts for like a call or a put, and then so at
Y-
least you're like, guaranteed something either way,
Yeah,
like hedging your bet.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's like you got the band where you'll you won't be able to um you won't be able to make a ton of money off the investments, but it can be used seemingly fairly intelligently if you want to get really sophisticated with it.
Right.
And I've I've looked into that a little bit. I haven't been confident enough to actually go through with any of those strategies yet, but
Right.
maybe at some point.
It's
Um,
yeah. I'm in the same boat,
yeah.
honestly. Option
One
trading.
of I guess the other bigger bet I placed was right before the Georgia elections. Um,
Ooh.
I bought a few call options on some weed stocks because like every indication was pointing towards uh the Democrats winning that race. Like um I was kind of tracking because I found the politics of it like kind of interesting. I was tracking the polling, and the polling went from one went from like Republicans were up by one to Democrats were slowly gaining. And then there were like two or three news stories that came out really bad for Republicans like the day before.
Mm,
And there was definitely not indicated in the polling yet. So it seemed to me at least like it was a fairly high probability that they would actually win those. Um, and they ended up winning them. And then
those
the
must have been
the
awesome.
yeah, so I think I basically evened out from the earlier ones
Do
that
you
I
do you
lost money in.
any specific stock picks that you remember from that experience?
I forget the
The
I think
tickers.
𝗿𝗂𝘀 or something like that.
I'll try it. What's the
TLRY, I think.
it looks like it's like a Tory Burch thing. I'll put that back up. TORY?
TLRY.
TL Tillery. Tilray. Yeah, pharmaceutical company.
They actually went through a merger with
Ooh,
somebody
shit.
else.
Wow. Like dollars to like 63 February.
Yeah. So
Wow. Look at
I was able
this.
to get a
20
decent, but there was definitely still a chance that they wouldn't have won both elections. So that was a high risk play for sure.
interesting. Interesting. I know there's these. The ACB I know is Aurora. Seems like they're hopefully doing all right. No.
Yeah, yeah, they've kind of gone along with the tech bubble, I guess, a little bit. Like those stocks,
Yeah.
they were they went up a lot February, I think maybe into March a little bit, and then the past couple of months they've gone down quite a bit.
Wow. Yeah, these are
Yeah,
intense.
I had Aurora too for a second.
Seems like this is at least Canopy's doing all right.
Yeah, so that was just like a, I don't know. Yeah, that's just like what seemed like was gonna happen. And then I bought a little bit of Jacobs Engineering, I think, as well, in case, because I figured at some point there's going to be an infrastructure plan that goes through.
That's a good one. I mean, I think there are memes about Biden talking about infrastructure. This is a great
Yeah,
stock. Whoa, geez, look at you.
yeah.
How do you find out about this company?
So I did some research on like the impacts on the election, I guess, election would have, and it seemed like they would be one of the beneficiaries if there was a Biden presidency and
You seem to be right
the
on
Senate.
that.
Um,
Almost doubled last year.
yeah. So I don't have a ton in that, but that was another one. One of the other uh speculative things I did. So of course, like these are the counterbalance to the GMEs of the world and the travel stocks I originally bought.
Yeah, this is
um,
great.
but but one of the other things that I was looking into, when the whole GME thing, so I got like really into investing for a little while there,
Nice.
and and when the GME thing went, I was following like the Reddit forums and stuff like that as well, because they actually have a decent amount of interesting information on them. There's a lot of ridiculousness, but
Right, right.
so right after, like for the week after, um, week or so after GME went skyrocketed, then there's all this news on like mainstream media about these forums and stuff like that,
Like
about these
Reddit
Reddit
and stuff.
forums.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Wall Street Bets was a big one, but another one, like it was gaining a lot of traction, and like there were tons of new people on all these forums, and there was a ton of new investors that just started following them. So what would happen, I started noticing, you would get these posts that blew up during the day. There'd be a stock, they had like all the catchphrases, like there's due diligence on this, and they do a long essay about why it's really working. And then it becomes like a top post on all of Reddit. And the stock, like clockwork, jumped 10%
Wow.
every time. So if a stock made it to the uh top of Reddit for like a week after, it would 100% go at least 10%, maybe 15%. If it's like a penny stock, maybe more.
Wow.
But but it takes a while for the post to make it to the top, right? So what I did, I followed the post. I got up at like when the market opened, like 6:30 here, and I would scroll through and sort by, instead of like the best posts, I would sort by the posts that were like rising or the new posts. And then when I saw one that was rising a lot, posted like 15 minutes ago, it has a ton of upvotes, then that was likely to go up a lot. So
That's
I threw in I would look at those stocks. I would throw in a ton. I would, or not a ton. I would throw in a decent amount of money into them, and then it would shoot up 10%, and then I would get out the next day. But that worked for like 4 days in a row, and I was like, I'm the smartest person ever, you know.
I made it.
but but obviously people caught on to it. Um, and then a lot of algorithms it seemingly started doing the same thing. And then like I think it was like the fifth day that it did that. I was like, okay, this has been a guaranteed 4 days in a row. There's no way. So I put like even more into one of them, and then it didn't go up. It went down. So it went, I think it went up. Well, the thing is, I wasn't, even though I caught it within the first like 20, 30 minutes, it already went up a whole lot.
Oh
So it
wow.
was up like 10% already. And then it um, corrected like the next day or something like that. And I didn't have enough money in uh, my Robinhood account to make it so I could day trade.
Yeah,
So
you need a certain dollar amount
you
for that.
needed to be $25,000 to be able to day trade. So if
It's
I got
casual.
into the stock, then I would have to
Wait
wait
a
a
day.
day to get out, which is one of the things that's nice about crypto is you can just get in and get out.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I made a lot of money there, and then I lost it most of those gains, I think.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is too good to be true. But it was definitely like something that was clearly happening and
Yeah.
a clear pattern that. But as soon as there becomes a clear pattern, people catch on to it pretty quickly.
Yep.
And
100%.
now it's tough to follow a lot of these forums because even though they give good like insight, the reaction is so high after that insight that even if it's like really great analysis, the stock is probably went up like 10% that day because of this person's analysis.
Mm,
So
right.
I haven't been following them as much lately because it just seems like too many people are in that space, and um I don't know. There's not a lot of there's a lot of market manipulation in there as well.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how influential those platforms and those forums can be, right?
Yeah.
Um, let alone single celebrities just tweeting out what they,
Oh
just for
yeah, yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
It can do a lot of damage. But yeah, it's cool that you caught on and were a part of the hype for a little bit, and it seems like at least you came out neutral, all things
Yeah.
considered,
Yeah.
somewhat
It was
unscathed.
fun. I
But
I was able to learn a lot through like doing it. So that was cool.
yeah, and were there any key takeaways though at the end of the day from that you're going to be moving forward with?
It just takes a lot of time.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
takes a lot of time and effort to make like really good financial choices like that or to catch on to something like that. And if you, I don't know, it's kind of not worth the time at some point.
hmm,
So it's definitely interesting, and I might get back into it a little bit when I have more free time or something like that. But I think if you're going to make risky investments, it seems like you really need to put a decent amount of time into looking into those investments. And then the times that I've like not put as much time into it and been like just from a friend or just from like something, a news
right.
article or something I see, then that's where a lot of times you get burned, I
Yeah.
think.
What are there certain platforms or when I say platforms, are there certain news hubs or places that you typically would look to first, maybe outside of like the Reddit forums that you would do your own due diligence on?
Yeah, so I listen to a lot of like financial podcasts as well, which I get kind of daily news from. Like Planet Money has a lot. There's a lot of good ones. Market Watch has a good one. Robinhood Snacks is kind of a funny podcast. That's a little goofy, but it actually has like it does 3 interesting stories each time that are pretty funny. I look at like some news articles from like Yahoo Finance. I peruse occasionally, and Motley Fool is
Motley Fool's good.
actually a fairly good good resource. So they they have like their free post and stuff like that, which is a little clickbaity,
Yeah, for sure.
um, little clickbaity and not like that great. But their paid subscription, which actually comes with the American Express as a benefit of the American Express credit card that I have.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
their paid subscription actually has some pretty good stock picks and stock analysis. Um, and they've fairly consistently outperformed like the S&P. I've
Yep.
looked into that. I mean, they advertise that they do, but like there's been some third party. I mean, it's not hard to look at the stock picks and see how it's performed, but it seems like fairly consistently they've been quite a bit above average. So I kind of list stocks on my radar, and then they also suggest that I kind of get that added boost of like this seems like it's probably a decent long-term investment. And I do think there's a little bit of a same stuff with any of these news articles where you get that initial boost where the stock goes higher than it should be if they just like did some recent analysis, recent new price target or something like that. But if you're doing long term 5-year investment, then 10% boost or maybe 5% over what it should be valued isn't like a huge thing.
Right.
It's better to be in a really good company that's maybe a little bit overvalued than a bad company that's undervalued, I think.
Yeah, well put. Well put. Um, and then the other article, another hub that I would also look to, you mentioned a lot. Like again, I look at Motley Fool quite a bit. What about like Seeking Alpha? Have you come across
Oh
those?
yeah, that's really good. They have really good stuff. I think I've subscribed to their newsletter actually, and they send out too many emails for me to keep track of. So, but they do have some good stuff.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I think let's what we'll do here is we'll go back to uh your net assets conversation and make sure that see if there's anything else you want to add to that, and then we'll have some other final questions here.
Sounds
It's
good.
been a great conversation so far. Appreciate you
Thanks, man.
hanging out. Yeah,
Anytime.
John just commented, he said informative show, man. So
Oh,
I think
great.
that's all
Thanks.
kudos to you. Thanks for coming on,
Thanks for having me,
informing
man.
and educating. Love that, John. Thanks for sticking around and watching. Um, and so if you and John, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. This is that's why we're live on Facebook. So feel free to, and if that goes for anybody watching at this show and others, feel free to comment and ask some questions live if you guys are interested in the subject. So um, yeah, so with this, was there anything else? I think we really went into a lot of your target date retirement stuff. You're pretty hard on those retirement date funds, and I think it's just more the theory behind it. And I just see it's pretty hands off. Is that why? Like, why do you like them so much? And uh, have you considered changing that up at all?
I like them because they're hands off. I think that's the main reason, and it's I think it's I've had it suggested to me in a few different places as a solid solid place to look at. I think for my mentality for trying to not touch the retirement account,
Hmm.
it's pretty easy to just pick that and go with it. It has been a little bit since I've looked at it, since it's been a touch and not not look back at it after.
Right. Right.
So um, I think I would be open to other ways of looking at it, but I think just about anything you would have to be a little bit more hands-on than if you're
Yeah.
doing a target date fund.
Right. Yeah, it's basically it's just you have just different funds, right? And
Yeah,
you just select between, right?
yeah,
Um yeah, no, I think we're by default put into the retirement date fund for most employer sponsored retirement accounts.
yeah.
Um Very cool. And yeah, is there anything else that's top of your mind that you want to mention here?
Um, I don't know.
We
I
covered a
think we
lot.
covered it. We covered it pretty well. I think a lot of people have different mentality for investments, and I think some people steering away, being even more hands off, would probably be good for them, and
Hmm.
might be better than what I'm doing probably than some of those risky investments. Um, I think I think for me, I do like kind of going into depth a little bit with the things and getting a little more hands-on approach. So I like it. I like having a little bit of skin in the game to follow it. But I do think like if you're not wanting to be hands-on, like putting it in a robo advisor and putting your money into a target date fund, you're gonna be in a really good position. And if you have like a solid budget, I think another word of warning with like speculative type stocks is that it I know it gets like compared to gambling
Yeah.
fairly often, and I think it's a little bit different because I mean if you go to the casino, your odds are that you're going to lose, and if you invested in a stock, uh, on average, stocks generally trend upward. The good thing to take into account, though, which is a good comparison with gambling, is that it does get there is people that get taken over with it, and and that's easy to happen. And if you keep doing higher and higher, then you're likely it becomes that you're likely going to lose out on it, because if you put in $1,000 and you get 100% return, then you put in $2,000 next time, maybe you get 100% return again, but then $4,000, and then if you lose all of that, then
Done.
that's where you're shot. So that's that's kind of uh, where it is a lot like gambling. If you do something like options and stuff like that, that you have a potential to lose all your money.
Yeah, I had a roommate who actually was in a pretty similar boat. Like not like unhealthy, but he definitely slowly started putting more and more and more and more in, and then he just
Mm-hmm.
got a little bit overconfident at some point, and he lost it all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we do have a question from John here. He says, "What do you think about investing in gold or like about like precious metals, etc., or oil, long or short term, good or bad?" Um, do you have any immediate thoughts on this?
Any immediate thoughts? So I think there is. I'm definitely not an expert, first of all, so I wouldn't go to me for advice. But just to answer the question, I don't have any money in gold. I have some money in oil. I invested in oil when it was down a lot last year. Um, I think long term, it seems like we're moving away from oil more and more. So my instinct would be that short term, it might not be a bad investment. It could be good or bad, but it seems like long term, it might be we're going away from it. But I'm not sure about that. And it seems like gold, it seems like there is probably going to be inflation in the next couple of years. It seems like we're already seeing that. Uh, I think there's a few different hedges against inflations that you can put. I think crypto would be one that you could use. I think there's a few other things, investing in like property or stuff like that. It's a really good opportunity. I'm not sure about gold as a whole. I feel like if inflation does go up, gold will probably go up a little bit. I think I'm hesitant with that type of stuff because unlike crypto, I don't see us moving to like back to a gold standard or using it as like a source for trading again. Um, so I guess those would be my hesitancies, but I'm not opposed to investing in it. I think I did invest in it some in gold last year for a little bit too.
Hmm.
Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think I pretty much agree with a lot. And of course, John, yeah, I mean, this is completely opinion based. So, um, you know, this is our thoughts here. So, with gold in particular and precious metals, I actually have another friend who is very bullish on them. He actually loves them. He buys bricks and stuff like he gets them or like coins and stuff ordered to his place all the
Okay,
time.
cool. Yeah,
Um, and he believes in them very strongly. So
gotcha.
long term and short term, he is just like the precious metals go to for me. Hope
Interesting.
to have him on the show soon as well. Um, and but realistically, I look at gold and precious metals like silver and whatnot as hedges against inflation.
Yeah,
It's never a bad thing to be diversified, just in case.
for sure.
I wouldn't necessarily say go all in into. I'm not a risky person personally. Like I'm not going to go all into any one thing, but I will, especially when I'm hanging around the guy who knows what he's doing, like I'll probably dabble a little bit once I understand exactly what it's done, like what it does, just exactly like what you were saying earlier, Drew, like just having skin in the game just to learn a little bit about it. But
Yeah.
in my mind, the coolest part about gold and silver isn't necessarily that you have gold and silver. It's like they have some really cool custom gold and silver bars and coins, and
Cool.
like they can be
Yeah.
like themed on like Star Wars, and you know you can obviously get there. Obviously, the crowd is into this is very political, but so you can get like stuff with like presidents' faces on them and whatnot. But
Yeah. Yeah.
but if you're able to get like a really cool like golden brick or coin with something that you actually like love and I like find enjoyment from, you can be like, yeah, I like this so much that I have a coin with that thing on it.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of fun. And I think if
That is
you
pretty cool.
treat it like that, yeah, it just becomes yeah, exactly. Like typically, so John just come in whatever shape you want. It was just like typically they come in like coins and bars, but I'm sure that you can probably melt it down and then reshape it too. Like that's also a potential. Um, I'm not sure
Yeah.
what it does to the actual gold itself or whatever metal, but so anyway, that's like my thought on metals is like it's not a bad option for sure. I again because my friend believes it so much, like I kind of believe it because he's like very strong on it too, but I
Yeah.
think it is of it as like a different asset class, right? Like in theory, like if the stock market just crashes and doesn't recover, then we're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
But if we have some gold, then it's really like, well, I do have some gold now. And
Yeah.
you have that in your back pocket. So I mean, diversification is never a bad thing. As far as
For sure.
and oil in general, to your point, I'm staying out of. I think I just don't know enough, and I'm not one to buy into stuff I don't know enough about personally. But
Yeah.
oil specifically, John, to your question, like short term, sure, maybe, especially because prices are so high. Then the next earnings report, I'm sure for a lot of these oil companies are going to be great.
Hmm.
But I also think long term, like we're probably going to be electric or alternative energy dependent outside of, and I mean cars and gas-powered vehicles are going to be here to stay for like probably another couple decades, but long term, that's probably where that's I think why people are so hype about people like Tesla as an
Yeah.
example, right? Because of that potential future. Tesla is more most of Tesla's business and business potential comes from the battery side of it than the car side of it, you know.
Hmm.
Um, those are that's where Tesla's gonna like making not maybe most of its money now, but where it can potentially grow that much further in the future is their battery technologies more than their cars and their auto manufacturing side of the business.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
No,
know,
that's true. And I guess another thing, if you're going to invest in oil, I guess if it's an oil like company or something like that, or gas company, like I think there's a chance that like Shell and some of the other bigger corporations that uh maybe not directly in oil, but when you think of like investing in like companies that are producing gas and oil and stuff like that, I think a lot of them have a lot of assets on hand. And as energy starts transitioning to more renewable, more electric stuff, I think it seems like they are working on incorporating that to become more of like a overall energy based business instead of
That's a good,
uh, a one-stop shop. So
that's a good
there
point.
could be still value in some of these energy companies that are currently mostly in oil.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that's a great point, right? Like some of these big oil, I'm sure you know, they're probably going to be scrambling. Like they're already feeling the pressure, I'm sure, from Tesla being in the
Mm.
news so much to start looking at how they can diversify as well, which is interesting. Grease and lubes, yeah. So,
Yeah,
um, but yeah, man,
cool.
I think those are great questions, John.
Thanks.
Um, and you got feel free if you have any other questions, John, while you're here, just feel free, comment away. Hopefully that was helpful. Um,
Yeah.
and so,
I guess I haven't been following gold very much either.
yeah,
So I don't know where its price is compared to where it was previously. So I'm definitely not anti-investing in it, and I definitely have some friends who think it's pretty solid
yeah.
choice as well.
Yeah, if my friend wasn't talking about it every time I talk with him, then I probably might not know or care enough about it either. But
Yeah,
I'm definitely taking an interest, and I've definitely like scavenged the website, like online places for like some interesting looking gold and silver stuff, because like they look
yeah,
cool, man. Um, and you like have the thing, right? Cryptocurrency, the issue is just like, well, it's somewhere in the internet, but gold is just like,
yeah,
you can't take this thing away from me unless you like literally physically take it from me, you
yeah,
know? Yeah, exactly. It's like a limited resource. Gold is a
mhm,
limited resource.
yeah,
Um, whereas like crypto, you can literally, again, we already know a lot of those small, talk about penny stocks is like gambling and whatnot, right? You have like all the other tokens and coins where they're like how many zeros in front of the like on like behind the decimal point are they? Like so fractional that it's just
yeah,
like you have like 0.0 like 10 to the whatever negative 3 whatever power like whatever like exponent stuff you're like we're gonna have to be a society that adopts that then, right?
yeah,
Like that's how many Dogecoin I have is like,
yeah,
it's like, oh,
yeah,
you want to trade with me? Well, I have this to the negative whatever power or whatever, worth of this
hmm,
coin. It's going to be a weird new way of talking. Because again, like one Bitcoin, like you're not going to have people be like, yeah, here's like one Bitcoin for like 7 Bitcoin, like, or like, hey, yeah, you're like, it's just not going to be that way. It's going to be like, yeah, like I have like 1/1040th of a Bitcoin, you know,
yeah,
can I
yeah,
get the pair of shoes there, please?
yeah,
Like it just doesn't unless there's a numerical split of the value of Bitcoin effectively, which is going to be that's an interesting conversation. I don't know. I just came up with
yeah,
that, but that'll be fascinating. You know, then yeah, that's I think what would make that a little bit more achievable. But yeah, as far as limited resources, yeah, exactly. There's only so much gold and silver. Um, But yeah, so we have some final questions here for you. And again, if anybody is watching, like John, if anybody else, if you guys do have questions, feel free to put them in as well. Um,